pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a prayer.
Dave, you want to do a prayer today?
I've often told you that I very much support prayer, but I would not be doing prayers. I've often said I recommend that we get the United Religious Community.
And I've asked you to do that too, and you never followed up.
Well, you're the one who seems to be big on the prayer, so I said go right ahead and do it, and it doesn't happen.
Well, I said, I want to talk to Marie about getting.
So I'll take that, we'll skip prayer and we'll
Sorry.
move on to,
We'd like to pray.
so we'll move on to the.
Hey,
first-
spirit-based dialogue, bro. I like that.
Thank you. I have a point of order for the
reality.
attorney. Because someone asked me, okay, open door law, are we violating it today because we didn't give post 48 hours notice to this meeting? Apparently, it was posted to the internet at 9:13 in the morning yesterday, which is less than 48 hours. And according to, and I know it was I said, well, it was announced at the meeting on Tuesday,
Right.
but according to Indiana code, verbals don't count.
It was sent
posted.
to the media within,
It was posted on Tuesday afternoon, I believe.
it was sent to the media and posted outside the office.
On the wall?
in
Okay,
time.
then that would,
Yeah.
I would say that
It was
qualifies.
just, I had forgot to put it on the
Yep.
website.
I would say that qualifies then, thank you.
And more importantly, Councilor, you said that qualifies as our,
qualifies.
our
Yes.
attorney.
You're
So
good.
we'll err on. All right, first item of business, opening reading of bids. Note there are none. Next up are reports and requests. First is the Board of Commissioners, a leaf pickup contract. Councilor, why don't you kind of walk us through?
I know that everybody has the agreement, but I prepared an executive summary. Maybe we can, there's, I think, one for everybody to go around. So the following framework for the 2018 agreement for the limited leaf collection and disposal services agreement between the county and St. Joseph Recycling LLC for the provision of the limited leaf collection and disposal services to the citizens. It's a result of a large amount of work by just many people. I know there were many meetings with members of the council, members of the commissionership, as well as the auditor, Mike Hammond, was heavily involved in this. I think a lot of this framework and work goes back to, it continues from last year, where I know that Mike Hammond and Mr. Krasinski and Mr. And others were involved in just working through the program we had last year. We had an RFP issued. I had input from just lots of folks on that, and I think we crafted a good RFP, so I appreciated all that work. So this is really the culmination of just past and continued efforts of many elected officials here in St. Joseph County put input into the RFP process, as well as the process of getting the appropriation for the agreement and getting us to the point we are here today. The limited leaf collection and disposal program described in the agreement consists of two passes, a first pass and a second pass, which will occur prior to the end of 2018. The possibility was left open for a mutually agreed upon third pass in the spring, should the county determine that such be necessary. The first pass is tentatively given to a start date of Wednesday, October 24, 2018. It can begin earlier if conditions are more ideal for that. It can begin later, up to no later than the first full week of October. So that's October 28th, 2018. So I think from the previous meeting I was at, that most governmental units are starting the third Monday. I think that puts us at October 15th. Prior draft at October 22nd as a start date. So now we have a tentative start date, and we have almost another week extension if conditions are more ideal to starting later. The second pass is to begin after completion of the first pass. So after all the townships have been picked up, then the second pass will begin. So I think in years past, there's been, perhaps some concern that leaves were collected in some of the less dense areas. There might be services provided in the more dense areas, and then there would be a second pass down in the less densely populated leaf area. That won't be the case this year. It will be a complete pickup and then another complete pickup. Also, it's important to note for both passes, they're to begin in Madison Township and rotate clockwise, proceeding Union Center, Liberty, and then through the remaining townships. So our higher density leaf population areas in Clay, Harris, and Penn, those will be the last ones that are picked up during each pass. So hopefully maximizing the number of leaves that are collected here with the program. The only prepayments to the agreement are a one-time acquisition and refurbishment fee for the vendor to use to purchase, refurbish, repurpose, and renew its fleet, as well as a 1/3 payment of the first pass, which is $250,000. That payment will be, which are for the staff and other administrative and employee expenses, so the vendor will be prepared to undertake this work as set forth in the agreement. All other payments are to be made only after meeting certain completion goals. I think it's important in the second pass payment is a total of $200,000. $100,000 is payable only after completion of Harris. So after we get through Madison and work all, through Clay. Once we get through Madison and work through all the townships and through Clay, then they get $100,000. So there's significant work that will be done prior to earning that second to last milestone of $100,000. Then the final payment of $100,000 will be due and owing after completion of Harris and Penn, two other high-density areas. No contingencies are allowed for in the agreement. However, if no contingency does occur that results in areas not receiving their allocated pass, collection will resume in those areas, weather permitting. Additionally, as with past practice, the vendor will provide GPS monitoring and tracking devices that document leaf collection services, which include the vapor trails to be submitted to the county with invoices. And I think over the last several years, that's something that the vendor and Ms. Clark and engineering, they're familiar with those types of documents. As well, even though it's not set forth in this document, I just want to highlight that we also have the ability to inspect the fleet that's being used, the equipment that's being used to complete this service at the county level. So if we have concerns about that, we just provide a notice to Greenville and we're allowed to go out and inspect their fleet. We at the county are responsible for public education and outreach, other than maintenance of a leaf collection website. We're responsible for maintaining and adequately staffing a call center to handle customer calls and complaints. And then we can give notice to our friends at St. Joe County Recycling to resolve complaints within 72 hours. I think that the commissioners have identified an individual, Ms. Nip, that's going to be the point person and point of contact for that. And I know in years past, having a point person do that has made that process much more efficient. And now, since we're not scheduling, individuals aren't scheduling, calling, and registering for pickup, I think that process should be more streamlined for that person, the communicator here at the county, to be able to efficiently just deal with these individualized claims as to if there's a missed pickup or if there's just another problem in that regard. The vendor must maintain program reports of the collection services until final payment has been received for the current season, and will maintain records of fuel usage and provide those records monthly by the fuel PID. And I think that's a process, Ms. Clark, that's been previously used, that we pay for the fuel for this program, and there's a true-up mechanism in that regard. And we have the right to review the program reports if we so desire from the vendor. So that, in a nutshell, is the terms of the contract. We can talk about one thing that's not addressed is what happens if there's a default. And under the terms of the contract at paragraph 35, if there is a default, we can always withhold payment. Nobody can force us to make payment. If there's a default, we always have the ability to withhold payment. And now, since all but the first payment are based upon achievement of milestones, that's a very strong remedy that we have as a county to compel performance of the contract, is we just won't pay it. And secondly, we have the ability, if we find that there's any type of damages, any type of claims that we could assert, any type of fraud or other activity that we think is wrongful towards the county, we have the ability in the agreement to assert any and all claims that law or equity that we would possess against the vendor. And in such a proceeding, the losing party would be responsible to pay the prevailing party's attorney. So there are mechanisms, with the strongest being the ability to withhold payment and to bring suit to collect damages under legal and equitable theories in the event of a breach of the agreement. So that's what I have just from a legal perspective on the agreement, and I appreciate the opportunity to discuss it.
A couple things also regarding the program itself. Marie is going to be one person, so if there are any questions or comments, if citizens have issues, that's the first point of contact. She will work very closely with St. Joe County Recycling to make sure those issues are resolved. And to some of the things that we're also pursuing that would not be exhibited in this contract. In other ways, we can improve upon the service of the program. Things like establishing drop sites at the different highway garages that residents, in the event that they had a number of leaves that they were unable to get picked up, they could take and deliver those to a highway garage, so those things could be processed, and once again, provide a few more remedies to our system. Are there any questions or comments from the board to start with regarding this? We'll open up questions or comments from the public.
Yeah, I would first ask the honorable auditor and the honorable council person, Joe, we might be getting a good copy. Scott, I just got mine. Did you, is this get a copy?
No, sir.
Can you, or, because you're mentioned prominently in the first paragraph, both of you, that you're basically credit for the framework of this, as a result of past efforts.
For 20, especially for this is, we worked hard, Mr. Krasinski and I, on crafting in 2017 the program for 2017. And so it's, to the extent that this program is based largely on that, a lot of provisions in the contract come from that, I suppose we would be duly credited.
Thank you. And Mr. Krasinski, you had a chance to review that. I would certainly want to hear your comments on that. Since I just got it. But it takes some time. I have a couple of questions. Thank you, Counselor, for explaining this October 28th date. And part of the calendar, I was going to ask, what did the last full week of October mean? And did it mean beginning of that week, whatever that is, or the end of that week, whatever that is? So, I would think in the normal business world that I operate in, we would have discussed things like this in negotiation, and we would have corrected the contract with clear language like that. So, we can leave the contract as the current language that says no later than the last full week of October, or it could be changed to just state no later than October 28th.
If you're more comfortable with that, I'm fine with that amendment. So I wasn't ignoring you. Before we came, and just as part of to address this, I brought my calendar too, and just looked at, it's called ISO 8601, dealing with what's been adopted generally by nations as standardized date and time type things. When the week starts, just to make sure it's Monday and Sunday, because I know there's
Different philosophies.
we've already had a religious debate, and I didn't want to get into when does the week start. So.
Yeah. It could also be a religious debate.
It could.
It's kind of based on that.
It could too. I'm well aware, but if I think putting in that date, if that's more comfortable for commissioners, I'm fine with that.
And that's clarity. There's no ambiguity. And then also, like it's mentioned, that would have been the first of that week period or the last of that period. So it just clearness. That's what helps make things be more productive. Now I did finally get a copy of this today, about 10:30. But most of it is the same as the copy you gave us late Tuesday. I'm going to kind of go off some of those notes. Well, I flipped through both of them. The very first, the witness it.
Yes, sir.
The second witness it. Whereas SJC, and it's already established that SJC in St. Joseph County has the authority to determine the manner of collection and disposal. I would say we partially have the authority. We can't just tell citizens what they can or can't do with our leaves. Some kids like playing them, some kids like recording them. I don't think, say we have full authority over that. I think it's a little overblown. Let's see. The next one, whereas the granting of the contract to a private corporation for the leaf collection and disposal serves as contemplated herein is a valid function of SJC. I don't know if it's a valid function. I mean, it's not a state required function. We can choosing to make it a function, as an extra service. So I don't, wonder if it was valid. Skipping to the whereases, whereas it is deemed to be in the best interest of St. Joseph County and the residents of St. Joseph County. And later in that sentence, to ensure the high quality of services. The deemed is open to, I think that's some of the personal opinions, I think, of what's in the best interest of St. Joseph County and its residents. And like the ownership of the it's not for us to tell people, American citizens, how they're supposed to feel. the bottom one. Now therefore, in consideration of the covenants and agreements herein contained. So that establishes that this is the full document. I'll bring that up this year later. The terms, the first thing, it says expires on November 30th, 2018, or when specified service passes are complete. Specified service passes, is that a definition, right?
It says right after that, friend, specified service passes include the first pass, the second pass, and any third pass, if such third pass is mutually agreed upon between the parties. So it's inclusive of the first and second pass. And if we decide to have a third pass, then it gives the county flexibility to make that determination later.
Yeah, I would think it'd be better to skip this whole issue of third pass, because it's taking this long just to get the two passes. And that way, and then we're left with the issue, does this expire on November 30th? You know, and if passes aren't completed. I mean, I think there needs to be a definition that Public Works or somebody says, we believe that everything is completed, just as they historically have reviewed it. So, I think that isn't quite as clear as it could be, you know. Next, under work and scope, you mentioned the changes in the dates from October 22nd to 24th. You also talked about the dropping of the November 1st to October 28th. And the issue of the townships. Now, before it was starting in Clay Township, and now it's starting in Madison Township, and then it says we'll rotate clockwise around Union Center and Liberty. I think all townships should be listed, not just those four. Because, you know, somebody might think something else comes after Liberty. And also, since portions of this contract we talk about when Clay is completed, certain payments are made, that it should be clearly defined when Clay is in the rotation for those services to happen and those payments to occur. So I think that should be really spelled out. Also from, you know, thinking about why South Bend has done such a great job with food pickup, I think it's because they have a little lull period between their first and second pickup. They give time for more leaves to fall. And then it also, let's say that during the first pickup, the crews have mechanical breakdowns, have weather concerns, where if we have a big thunderstorm and trees and brush are knocked everywhere. There's like, you know, with schools, they call them snow days, snow makeup days. That it seems like there should be some added days in there that if needed, if someone's leaves weren't properly picked up and it's identifiable, that there's time frames to make sure that their first pickup is really done well, and then also make sure that the second pickup doesn't start too soon. So, you know, with the second pickup, starting right after the first pass, one, I think there should be a gap there. And I think the commissioners should control both start dates. And next we have the first pass cost. It remained at $750 for the first pass. And, you know, it still has equipment preparation deposit of, you know, of $250,000 on top of the $195,000. I didn't pull my calculator, but I think it's about $445,000 on a $1.1 million contract. That's a very significant portion of this contract to be paid without any work being done. So it seems like that is over excessive in the amounts of prepayments. The next item, again, is the issue of Clay, that 1/3 will be paid after Clay is done. But we don't actually have a listing of when Clay would be done, as mentioned earlier on the previous page. At the end of the second pass, it's a service area per program guidelines. I would just make sure that all the legal movements will just be more simplified. There's no final payments, so all the work is done to the customer satisfaction. You know, if I was a little boy coming to rake my neighbor's leaves, which I had done, and she gave me $2.50, I wouldn't ask for payment. I wouldn't ask for any prepayment. I would know better. Okay, next payments, obviously, it looks like there's taking this consideration between the lag time or the required time to get a payment authorized, approved, check run dates. Obviously, it looks like that's covered in the payment schedule. Under fuel, it says all fuel related to this endeavor. I would make sure there was fuel related to just St. Joe County. We're not paying for, if somebody's gonna haul these loads to Timbuktu or out of the county, that we're not paying for any fuel usage or for any vehicles driving outside of St. Joe County or outside of the state. Excuse me. And in that same fuel area where we have mileage associated with fuel usage, yada yada, by date and fuel fee. Now, it was brought up in our meeting Monday that there's only a few fuel fees. So, I don't think I actually even got a number, seen the number of fuel. There's a minimum of 50 trucks, plus X number of supervisor vehicles, plus maybe administrative vehicles. I think we ought to have all that clarified, the number of vehicles, the number of fees, to make sure that we're matching up trucks with mileage, and fuel with trucks and mileage, for transparency and openness. And also to make sure we're getting our 15 truck per day requirement. Okay? So, and also the issue of subcontractors. If they're gonna be subcontractors, then they're gonna have our fees, but also be fully documented and recorded. Next, it has the one-time fleet acquisition fee of $195,000. That was mentioned earlier. And so I won't belabor that excessive deposit. Item 3 there, that the operation will go 24/7, 365 days a week. I think I would add, unless an emergency is declared by the Board of Commissioners. Obviously, we wouldn't want to go out there when the weather is bad, et cetera, et cetera. Communication, that's great. Program field cooperation leader, so that's 2 staff. We will be supplying to from the county, make sure that this program is a success. The first one, communicator, it says that we will supply them December 21st, item D. That we will supply them December 21st or reimburse the vendor for their related costs. You know why that date's in there?
Say that again, finish your comment.
Item 4D says that we will provide a communicator from October 10th to December 21st, or we'll reimburse the vendor at their cost.
If we do not perform, I'm sorry.
But I don't see that mentioned for the other position we're supplying, program field cooperation leader. A lot of times as an accountant, I look at things and I say, what don't look like the other?
I get it.
So something here don't look like the other. And there's a date, which sometimes makes arbitrary.
Yeah, so you're right, in 4, dealing with the communicator, there is a paragraph D that allows for the reimbursement to the vendor in the event that the county does not fill that position. And
There's a program
because it's
to go
very important.
until the end of the year. That's, we don't know whether committees to take that on or second that completely.
Oh, and I forgot.
Right, that's what it is there.
Well, I wouldn't want that date there. I would think that if we're supplying a staff member, just as we're supplying the field, program field cooperating leader, there's no expiration date on that person. Why would there be an expiration date on the communicator position, and then we could potentially be in a position where we're paying the vendor for these services?
The program will be completed in 2 passes by December 21st, 2022. I think that date protects you for the period of time you have to staff something. I would not ever envision that if the program was past that we would somehow stop staffing it, or that they would be entitled to some type of damages at that point in time.
What is the purpose of saying we will reimburse the vendor?